Hello everybody, and welcome back to the world yet again. Today, we're mostly going to be working on a few different farms to help me just do some more stuff in the world. Mostly, I'm going to be making a gunpowder farm to probably help me get my netherite stuff back after I lost most of it. I also make a magma cream farm because magma blocks are something that you don't really need all the time, but when you do need them, they can kinda be a pain to get, so it's something that I figured I'd make now so that I don't have to worry too much about making it in the future. I also head back to where I was making that wither skeleton farm to try and finish it, but due to some weird stuff happening and some probably misunderstandings on my part about how the farm works, it's not currently functional, even though I do have it fully built, I think, but it's something that I'm gonna continue needing to figure out, I guess. But anyway, let's get into what we're doing today. First off, as you could see in that little intro clip, I was collecting a bunch of sand and obsidian. The obsidian was mostly to work on the aforementioned wither skeleton farm because it needs a good amount of portals, but also I was collecting sand, of course, for the apiary because what else would I be collecting it for? Luckily, I'm actually getting pretty close to finishing the main part of that, so maybe I will be finished with all of those bottles soon. Which, you know, that would be nice. Next, I headed up to grab some wood for the super smelter because I don't currently have a lot of charcoal, and just so you know, I did get a version of the tree feller mod, and this is mostly to just save me a bit of time and sanity while collecting wood, because the big trees just take a really long time to cut down, and this makes it so that I can just cut them down really easily and fast, which doesn't give me a huge advantage, it just makes it go faster, which is always nice. And with that baking in the background, I decided to start just a little project to make the ground look a little better. Mostly, there's still that moss farm that's just sort of looks very out of place. Mostly because it's just a redstone contraption in the middle of a field. So that's something that I just sort of wanted to fix real quick by building a building around it. I decided to build the building out of specifically dark oak and normal oak and nothing else, because I decided that the moss farm shouldn't have any stone in it, mostly because I just figured the moss farm has a sort of like nature quality to it, since it's what I'm using to grow out the land and terraform, and it's moss, so it's sort of a natural resource. So I figured it would look better if the area it was in was more of like a tree than an actual like fortified building like some of the other stuff I've been building. Of course, it's not going to be an actual tree, mostly because I'm really bad at making custom trees, but besides the point, I mostly decided against building like something like an actual tree because currently this area is more civilized and like there's nothing like druidic about this civilization, so I figured a more building would be better, and plus the wooden building isn't really something I've done yet. Everything's been sort of a mixture of both stone and wood, so I figured I'd give a shot at just a pure wooden building with a lot of logs. I mostly decided to go with more logs than planks because I figured that that would give it a little bit less of a refined look, straying even further away from the bricks and planks of the city, and having more of a just logs piled on top of each other kind of look. So the main structure of the building is made up of stripped oak logs that are surrounded with a sort of shell of dark oak logs and other planks and stairs to give it a little bit more shape and texture. It definitely isn't a complicated building, but it was mostly just to sort of get something down so that I didn't have to look at just a moss farm on the ground. This isn't like I said, a very complicated building. Sort of gives a similar vibe to like the first builds you start doing once you start watching and figuring out how to build properly and not just making a wooden box, but it's just sort of a simple build to help bring the world together instead of just having the moss farm out in the middle of nowhere. I take a little bit of time to cover up a bunch of area that I've already terraformed with moss carpet. This is mostly to stop myself from having mob spawns before I light stuff up, because frankly, moss carpets are really good at spawn proofing, not only because they're carpets so mobs can't spawn on them, but also because they're really easy to blend in since I'm terraforming with moss anyway, so the moss carpets aren't really going to stand out very much. And even if I was doing it on grass, moss carpets look like grass, so it wouldn't be a problem there either. The only itsy bitsy problem is that moss and moss carpets look identical, so it's kinda hard to tell where you've put moss carpet and where you haven't. So yeah, actually placing it down, that might hurt a little bit, but I'm gonna do it because I want to and it's good for the environment or something, I don't know. But after doing a little bit more land polishing, it was time to start making farms again, because why not? And also, this one's actually kind of important for later. So I'm gonna be making it out of dirt, because nothing screams important building like being made 100% out of dirt. This farm is going to be a creeper farm, because gunpowder is frankly just really good to have a large stockpile of. Mostly because TNT is used for a lot of different stuff. From TNT dupers to mining netherite, pretty much everything you use TNT for is really handy, and trying to do said things without TNT is not as fun. This isn't going to be a massive creeper farm by any means. It's pretty much just going to be something that works well enough for now. It is pretty effective, and that's really all I need. It is a pretty unique creeper farm though, as far as creeper farms I've made, but that might just be because I'm woefully unaware of creeper farm designs, but this one is fairly unique in the sense that it uses snow golems to lead the creepers into the pit of death, which isn't something I've actually seen before now. So that's cool. It isn't the only farm I'm aware of that uses snow golems, because I know that some types of copper farms use it to duplicate zombies, using the weird raid effect that zombies can have when they get hit by stuff. But I just think it's interesting because up until I started making redstone farms and weird farms like this, snow golems were just sort of in the game, and I never looked at them or used them, and it's something that I like being able to use because useless features make me annoyed, and so finding ways to use features that I usually don't use is something I very much enjoy doing. Sort of like the brown mushrooms in the slime farm, because the fact that the mushrooms gave off that light level of 1 is something I was vaguely aware of. It's something that I did recognize was a feature, but it was just sort of one of those things that was just like, huh, that's weird, and I never really thought of the weird ways you could use it to your advantage. But anyway, let's get to building said farm. Oh, and remember last episode where I said I'm gonna focus on building everything within the circle to have this sort of district in this world? Well, apparently I cannot follow my own directions, because I literally walked like a couple blocks outside of the circle to build this farm, which, like, I know it's supposed to be built in a deep ocean, but it almost seems like I'm taunting myself, and that's kinda weird. For the most part, the farm is pretty basic. It's the classic creeper farm design, where you just have a large circular structure and they all spawn on there, but of course this one is slightly different because instead of using something like cats to scare them into the middle or something like that, you have snow golems which piss them off and make them try and attack them or something, but instead, of course, they fall into the hole and burn on campfires, which I definitely did not forget to put in and almost die because of. And even if this farm isn't the fastest farm ever, it definitely is the most relatable creeper farm, because I'm gonna be 100% with you, I don't know nobody who would run to their death because there was a cat somewhere and it scared them to death. And so they decided to jump off a cliff into a fire to get away from it, because that doesn't make sense. What does make sense is the unbridled rage you feel when a bunch of weird snowman people with pumpkin heads decide to throw thousands of snowballs at you for no reason. I mean, who do they think they are? A child in a Hallmark movie? I mean, you can get away with that like once, maybe, if you're like really lucky, but unless you are said children in a Hallmark movie, you might die doing that, because I do not vibe with thousands of snowballs being decked into my brain. I mean, even the Hallmark kids aren't getting away with that more than like 3 times. Let's be real here. After that, they are getting a very firm dropkick to the face. But the creeper dormitory was pretty easy to make. It's pretty much just dirt cylinder, and yeah, when I came back down, I definitely did not notice that I did not put in the campfires. So yeah, there was a couple of creepers down here, but it's not like I was in any danger or anything. Luckily, since there was no real line of sight, I wasn't ever in any real danger, because I made sure to be careful and stand behind the chests at all times. But it was just mildly annoying, because, you know, had to do work to get my campfires in. Tragedy. And then up to the AFK platform I went, because why not? But now I have a very good source of gunpowder, which is always a good thing to have, because gunpowder is just used for a lot of useful stuff like fireworks and TNT, so it's just something that's good to have a good supply of. After that, while I was walking home along the edge of the circle, I noticed a shipwreck that I hadn't raided yet, and of course, being the gremlin that I am, I had to collect everything out of it. And there was a buried treasure map, which meant more treasure, which I'm never going to complain about. Probably. And after that, I didn't waste too much time collecting materials for the Wither Skeleton farm. Luckily, I already built the big platform, which means most of the bulk stuff that I needed are already placed down, which means this shulker box should have enough to completely finish the farm. Luckily, this part of the farm isn't too difficult to make. It's basically just a lot of interconnecting portals, which means your biggest risk, and what I believe ended up messing mine up, is definitely portal linking and making sure they link to the correct portals. The overworld side is also literally just 2 portals and a path with some cobwebs, so yeah. Not extremely complicated. Despite this perceived simplicity, however, I never really got this thing to work. Despite how long I stood here, no wither skeletons ever came through that portal, and it was kinda frustrating. And I also started running into an issue here, where every single time I walked through another portal, my game would immediately crash, which, you know, isn't ideal. When I did get to the overworld side, however, there were wither skeletons over there, they just weren't moving. So I'm assuming something to do with that nether portal glitch is bugging them out, and even after trying to fix it, it didn't really do anything. So this is something I'm gonna have to look into in the future, because I don't really know what's causing it. Really, my only guess at the moment is that it's one of my mods causing it, because when I turned off all my mods and just did a vanilla, it didn't do it anymore, which, you know, isn't great, because most of the mods on here are for optimization, so, you know, that's weird. And also considering that I didn't really add any new mods when it started happening, so it's a little confusing, but it's something I'm definitely going to need to fix, because your game crashing literally every time you go through a nether portal, or actually end portal 2, is not ideal. I also attempted to blow up some bedrock so that I could get through down to the underside, and, well, I kind of forgot that this method is only supposed to be done when you have a good armor, so it didn't really go well. I then start collecting materials for the magma cream farm, because I don't really know how to fix the wither skeleton farm at the moment, mostly because it's caused by a lot of things, I think, but it's not too difficult to collect materials for the magma cream farm, and it means I can make a farm in the nether this episode that will hopefully work, which is always nice. Fortunately for me, the hardest part of the magma cream farm was ghast proofing, and the only reason that was as difficult as it was is for half of it I was being bullied by the magma creams that were already spawning. But other than that, this farm is really simple, pretty much just rails under a platform with some powdered snow to kill them. I mean, usually you'd use berry bushes or wither roses, but I didn't really have access to either of those, so I used powdered snow because I figured it'd work fine. And it does, it's just a little bit slow. But with that should be everything for this episode. I'm gonna be continuing to work on trying to fix that wither skeleton farm, or even potentially just making a different one that might just be single dimension, but I am going to need to fix that portal problem anyway, because it breaks a lot of other farms too, but for now, I think I'm just gonna let it be. So, for now, that will be the end, and remember to feel free to leave comments on what you think I should do, or if you have any ideas on what might be causing that portal problem, because I honestly don't really know. But otherwise, I think today's been mostly a good day. I've managed to fix up a lot of stuff and do a lot of things, and also, before I leave, I did actually finish up all of the bottles that I needed for the apiary. I just, you know, managed to forget to record that part because I am a great YouTuber or something, I don't know. But basically, I did manage to finish getting in all of the bottles that I needed, so the apiary is actually completed finally. It just took a little while. But for now, I think I'm gonna let you go, and I will try to be back next Sunday as per usual, but for now, I will see you later, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.